Hi everyone, this is Miss Teslick coming to you with part two of our virtual presentation from my location. Uh, just a side note, there have been many interruptions today, so it is quite possible that you will see an 8-year-old running around behind me. And I also just wanted to say before I start my half that I hope that you are healthy and managing this situation as best as you can. Okay, I'll begin. So we're talking now about what makes a good college list. Um, Remember, regarding the number of schools you apply to, this is the most important thing about all of this. The more you have, the more applications, supplements, and all the bits and pieces that you have to manage in this process. So too many choices is too much stress. Okay, so we recommend that a final college list is anywhere between 12 to 16 colleges, and that you should have a good mix of reach, probable, and likely schools. So the example that we have is if you apply to 12 schools, 5 should be probable, 3 should be reach, and 4 likely. Reach, probable, and likely are things that we need to go into. For a reach school, the definition is that is a school where your GPA and your ACT or SAT scores fall below the middle 50% range of students who have been accepted. And additionally, they have a lower acceptance rate, okay? Typically lower than 40%. A probable school is one where your GPA and scores, test scores, fall within that middle 50% of accepted students, and the school has an acceptance rate that hovers right around that 40%. That's kind of like the magic number that we talk about a lot. A likely school is one where both your GPA and your SAT scores go above that middle 50% range, and also they have an even higher acceptance rate, okay? So that's just to give you a sense of what reach, probable, and likely are, and what a good balanced list should look like. Always remembering that more applications is more stress. Okay, next slide. What makes a good college list continued? So you need to ask yourself a lot of questions when you're looking for a college that you would like to attend to, you would like to apply. The first question is, where do I want to live? And there are a lot of other questions that fall under this heading. So first of all, do you want to be close to home? Do you want to go away and have a dorm experience? That answer may have changed recently with COVID-19 as the backdrop. Also, has your family situation or financial situation changed as a result of this? Or how does that impact how close you need to be to home? In addition to this question, or underneath this question of where do I want to live, you want to also be thinking urban, suburban, or rural. Are you the type of person who absolutely needs an urban setting? Are you okay with, or even kind of looking forward to, a change where you would go out into a very rural place and maybe there's not much around aside from the college or university where you're attending? So those are important things to think about as well. And also just how far away do you want to go? You know, if some people are really attracted to a particular part of the United States for its geography, for its weather, and also just thinking about if you do go further away, how much are you going to want to come home, and how are you going to afford that, right? Airline tickets can be expensive. Getting home can take a lot longer, just depending on the situation. So you want to think about that as well. The next thing that's very, very important is, what is it going to cost? It's very important that you've discussed college costs and parameters around costs as a family, okay? Private schools, as opposed to public, have much bigger sticker prices However, sometimes the cost between public and private can even out with scholarships and grants. Sometimes not, just depending on a lot of situations, financial circumstances. So it's very important to have these discussions right now as you are choosing schools, as opposed to later in the game where you might choose a school, be accepted, and then be disappointed that you can't go. The next question, what do I want to study? A caveat here, it is absolutely normal as a 16 or 17-year-old to not know the answer to that question, to not know what do I want to be when I grow up, right? You're still young, you're still figuring things out. However, if you do feel like you have a pretty solid idea of things that you want to study, or you definitely know you want to go into STEM, or you definitely know that you're more a humanities person, then that can kind of fuel the colleges that you put into your list, okay? Okay, next. And a word about community college. So the myth about community colleges is that they are only for students who did poorly in high school. The fact is that they're a very affordable option. They offer core college courses, significantly cheaper, and if you do well in those courses, they can easily transfer to a four-year college or university. They're also perfect for a student to kind of like explore what they want to do a little more as far as majors and careers. And if you do fall into the bucket of maybe needing to strengthen your academic profile and boost up your GPA, they can help you with that a little bit, just giving you that additional time to both think through what you want to do, explore options, and strengthen your profile. Okay? Next. Decision plans. Okay, so there are multiple options for decision plans, and it's very, very important to be in the know about what all of this terminology means so that you're clear and can differentiate between the different kinds of terms. So first we have rolling admission. For schools that accept students on a rolling basis, from a start time to an end time, and it's a longer range of time, they will accept your application, review it, and give you a decision within a certain amount of time. For rolling decisions, it's a good idea to apply on the early end, because the further you go towards the end of that rolling application period, the more competitive it gets. There are more students who have already been accepted, and so you have to stick out a little bit more. So it's important to do things early. The early bird gets the worm, okay? Regular decision is the decision type, the decision plan that most people are familiar with. The deadline for that is generally January 1st or January 15th, so it gives you a good chunk of time in the fall to really get your application and all of the pieces that go along with it together. Okay, next. Decision plans continued, because there are many of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about both early decision and early action. And it's very, very important that you understand the distinction between these two. So first, early decision. The main thing about early decision is that it is binding. It's a binding agreement. So when you apply to a school early decision, you can only apply to one. By applying to that one, you then are saying that is like your top choice. And if they accept you, you are locked into that agreement. And that also means locked in financially. So whatever financial aid or scholarships or grants they offer you or do not offer you, you are saying by signing that early decision agreement that you will accept that. So both early decision and early action have a similar timeline. It's accelerated, and you need to have all the components of your application in either by November 1st or November 15th. Early action is different than early decision in one particular way, and that is that it is not binding. So if you apply to a college early action, and they give you your decision, you don't have to decide to go. Okay, you can still weigh your options between other schools. So some students will apply, and also early action, you can apply to many schools early action. The main thing though to keep in mind is that while you get your decision from them earlier, you have to get all your pieces of your application in earlier as well. Okay, there is another one called early action single choice, or sometimes referred to as restrictive early action. This is for private schools. It is the same deadline, November 1st or November 15th. It is not binding, okay? But you cannot apply early action or early decision to any other private school, okay? So restrictive early action is private schools only. You can't do ED, early decision, or early action to another private school. You're saying that you commit to them. The only difference is that you don't want, if they give you an acceptance, you can still decide to reject them if at the end of the game you change your mind. So the other piece of this is that you can apply early decision or early action, however, to a public school. So it is called restrictive early action in the sense that it is restrictive for private schools, but it is not restrictive for public schools. So you could do one restrictive early action or REA to a private school and still apply early action, early decision to public schools. So that's a lot. We have, I believe, a glossary that you're going to receive, and definitely print that out, look through it, refer to it from time to time. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. How to think about is early decision for me. So first of all, for early decision, you only have one shot, right? That's just one school. So you don't want to waste that if it's on a school that you're not academically qualified. So ask yourself, are you academically qualified? Does your GPA and the strength of the curriculum taken in high school and your SAT and or ACT, does all of that match what they are looking for? Financially, if you apply ED and are accepted, it is an accelerated timeline. So what that means is you will not be able to compare the financial aid packages from other schools that are on a regular decision timeline because it is early decision. So you apply around November 1st and you get a decision around December 15th. So you have to take a look at that financial aid package and that one only and make your determination there. So it is a better commitment to make when you're okay with saying yes to whatever the cost of attendance is going to be that they decide. So finally, a good way to think about this is, are you an early bird type? Can you do the lion's share of your application over the summer for this accelerated timeline? Okay, because you're really going to need to do it over the summer, and then also just keep plugging away at it into the early fall and really be early with everything. So if you're not that kind of person, it may not be for you. So you should only choose a school as early decision if you're absolutely sure that you would love to attend and you're just certain that this is a match both for you, the school matches you, and you match the school. Also be ready to clearly articulate why you feel the school is a match for you and why you have chosen it ED and why you match it, because they will ask you to do so. And finally, do not get super caught up on this one school that if you do go the ED route, early decision route, don't get caught up on this one school and convince yourself that it is the one and only love of your life. Because even if everything in your application matches and seems to be exactly what they're looking for, you still don't know what's going to happen and you may not get into that school. Okay? All right, next slide. Owning the process, students and parents. Okay, so um, we strongly believe that students should take ownership over the process of the college application process at High School of American Studies, and just in general over the process of their education. I heard a great metaphor once at a college counselor training that I went to. The student is in the driver's seat. They're taking charge of most of the process. They're taking all the turns and figuring out how accelerated they should go. The college counselor is sometimes in the passenger seat. We're acting like the driving instructor from time to time. We're telling them to think about avoiding that bump and to, take a look at the GPS again and make sure they're going the right way. And the parent, for the most part, remains in the back seat. Sometimes jumps into the front seat, but mostly remains in the back seat. The jumping into the front seat is more related to the financial aid pieces where, a lot of your information is needed and a lot of your guidance is needed, and it's more directive there. We'll get to that in a minute. Also in the back seat, from the back seat, you can kind of have discussions with your students about like, how far do you feel comfortable with them going away? And how far do they want to go away? And can you make a compromise with that? What is affordable for the family? As we've talked about, that's very important to discuss. So finally, well, not finally, there's more on this. We expect students to take ownership of this process. We expect them to initiate emails to us, to come in and ask us questions in our offices, to create their own system so that they're organized and they keep everything like in a spreadsheet and they keep everything in their calendar for the timelines and the deadlines. The goal really in this process, and this is good practice for the world, but it's really to give students the experience of handling real life adult responsibilities. Okay, next slide. So having spoken about our philosophy of owning the process, we just want to add a couple more things. It's important that parents are realistic about college choices. College has changed tremendously since your college days and definitely my college days. A lot of students, or I'm sorry, a lot of parents can sometimes become fixated on very selective schools because they feel that this is the only opening for their child's success. That is not necessarily the case. And just remember that the college admissions landscape has really, really changed, and it changes at a breakneck speed, especially right now. Once again, it's best to stay in the back seat of this process, but also be open to dialogue and responsive to questions from your child. Okay, so that's the way that you can really support them. Let them take the steering wheel as much as possible, and help guide them by answering their questions and providing that support that they will need. Some things, having said all of this, some things that you can do are to kind of help them with this process are keeping aware of the deadlines yourself. And also the application and other fees that come up in this process, because typically that's the parent's responsibility. Also, something that is a big responsibility that might be good for a parent to take on is just keeping an eye out for scholarships. There are so many scholarships out there that's really hard to keep track of, and it's kind of almost a full-time job. So that's a place where you could really jump in and help out your child. Most importantly, please gather your financial information, get your paperwork in order. For the FAFSA and the CSS profile, especially the CSS profile, there's a lot of legwork, there's a lot of paperwork. It's important to have that all in order, and that's something that you can start to do now and then be ready by October 1st for that. And we'll go into that more in just a second. So now we're going to talk about the timeline: spring, summer, and fall. So for students, your to-do for spring. First of all, in the spring, very soon, Ms. Harris and I are going to be going over the HSAS College Application Procedures Handbook. This is the thing that you should just keep going back to all the time, make a copy of, read and reread, earmark it, make sure you understand it. When we do go over it in the class, in the virtual classroom with you guys, it's going to be very important that you listen carefully, okay? Because it's a highly important document. The other thing that is important for students to be doing right now is their college search. So you can use Naviance. There are some search tools which we've shared in our college meetings, including something on Naviance called Supermatch. Also, College Board has something called the Big Future. Both of these are search engines where you can pare down your college search based on the size of the school, majors they may offer, special programs, the diversity, all of these things, and then they will give you a list of schools, and then you can kind of do some more research as you create and hone your list of schools that you would like to apply to. A note on college visits. This is a time when college visits would typically be happening a lot. Because of COVID-19, we can't do that. So while you can't, there are 3 virtual tour websites listed in a handout that's going to be shared with this presentation. And many colleges are holding their own virtual tours. So please check out those colleges. For any college that you're interested in, check out their website, look for information on their virtual tours. They are official virtual tours with usually a Q&A attached at the end. And it shows demonstrated interest if you attend one of those virtual tours. So there are ways that you can still take the initiative and learn about schools during this pandemic. Teacher recommendations are something you should be thinking about, and we talked about in the meetings with juniors. You should have a good idea of the 2 teachers that you want to ask for recommendations, and be ready because we'll have more information coming to you in mid to late May. But the most important thing is to have an idea of who would speak well to your strengths and who you have a good relationship. Finally, summer plans. Plan a summer activity, a job, etc. This all is with the backdrop of COVID-19. A lot of students have asked about this, a lot of parents have asked about this. What we are recommending and what we are hearing is that it's a good idea to keep planning for summer and have like a kind of backup plan. So if we are not able to open up at all, and everybody still needs to stay inside in the summer, there are ways to work around that. There are online courses that you can take. Many of them are free. There are ways to fundraise and volunteer within your home. So get creative in your thinking about that, and don't think that because of this pandemic, if we are all inside in the summer, which I hope we are not, but if we are, don't think that that means that, well, there's nothing I can do. If you are able to get out and some of your activities or programs that you had signed up for have been canceled, because sometimes that is happening, what you can do is don't forget volunteering. Right now, the city is under tremendous strain, and there is going to be just every volunteer opportunity you can imagine. So keep that in mind, okay? Let's move to the next one. Summer 2020. Okay. So a note, if you plan to apply EA or ED, early action, early decision, please remember that you need to be working very hard on the college process, on getting your essay done and all of this stuff. It should be actively underway this summer. Other things for the summer, campus visits. If summer means things are open, please go to campus visits. If not, use the websites previously mentioned. Develop workarounds, okay? Common application. The Common application is a thing that you should definitely be working on in the summer. Create your username and password, get in there, put in your basic information, get a start on it, and get a handle on what it's all about and all the pieces that you will need to fill in. The personal statement. By the end of the summer, it is strongly recommended that you have a rough draft that you feel pretty confident about of the personal statement, so that you don't need to worry about that when you go back into the fall and you're dealing with classes. Okay? Next slide. Fall 2020. Okay, looking ahead into the fall, September, you should ask or confirm your teacher recommenders, okay? And they will have specific forms that they want you to fill out. You should solidify your list of schools you're applying to. Schedule interviews for schools. Look for diversity fly-in programs if they are still happening. There are schools that offer fly-in programs. They'll pay for your travel and they will host you for free. Go to lunchtime and after-school college visits. The college representatives come to High School of American Studies. They talk about their schools. They write down your names and your email addresses and send you information. And they're the people that would read your application if you do apply to that school. So take advantage of those. Individual senior meetings will happen with your counselor, myself or Ms. Harris. During those meetings, we're going to go over your college list and make sure it's solidified. We're also just going to make sure you are on track in this process. In October, also look forward to the High School of American Studies Application Procedures Evening, which is in-depth and offered to parents and students. Please come. Also, we will have financial aid night very early on in October, and we'll review the financial aid process more in depth at that time and answer questions. Also, there's going to be lots of transcript request forms that students are going to get familiar with. We'll come into your classes and explain what they are. Just be aware that those are things that we are going to need from you and we're going to need in a timely fashion. And finally, by Thanksgiving, your regular decision schools that you are applying to should be finalized. Okay? Next slide. A look ahead, fall and financial aid. So the College Scholarship Service Profile, or CSS Profile. This is used for private schools. It's available in October. About 400, maybe more schools use the CSS Profile to determine what kind of financial aid you will get. It requires, as I mentioned before, a lot of more detailed information, so be ready for that. That you will begin filling out, as I said, October 1st it opens up. Also, October 1st, everyone should fill out the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. Parents, be prepared with your 2019 tax information. This just determines your your expected family contribution, or EFC, through the student aid report. Okay, so the student aid report is given to every school, and that tells them what your expected family contribution is. And then just note that private schools have the ability to act independently regarding this financial aid information that they get and decide what they can give you for scholarships, grants, and loans. Okay? Next. More about financial aid. Just be mindful. Large loans are often part of the financial aid package. They must be repaid. Okay? Loans must be repaid. Grants and scholarships are free money. They are not repaid. And financial aid packages change yearly. Sometimes if your grades go down, you could lose certain financial aid and scholarships and grants, definitely. Scholarships and grants are limited at colleges. It differs by college. You may not qualify or receive them, and you may have to utilize other options like savings and loans, okay? And just also remember, like we always say, SUNY and CUNY are critical financial safeties. It's important to have at least a couple SUNY and CUNY schools that you feel great about because they are great affordable options, okay? And then also just parents and students, think ahead. College, 4 years of college is typically not the end of the road. Most people go to graduate school, some people pursue a doctorate degree, and that's more money. That's more tuition, more money, more time. Okay. Final thoughts. A few things. Please do follow our procedures. They've been designed to help you with this process, to make it less stressful for you and for us. We have different colored forms for transcripts for a reason, because there's a lot of pieces of paperwork that we have to be mindful of and make sure we don't lose track of. So please just follow the procedures and fill out the forms correctly. We'll get to that in the fall. Definitely, please read everything we give you. The stuff we give you is given to you for a reason. It's very important to read it, print it, save it. And also, just a reminder, deadlines are the last day that something is due. So you should work ahead of those days, okay? And make sure that you're starting early so you're not getting yourself in a bad place. And, you know, just final thoughts, we really look forward to working together with you. You know, we'll usher you through this process every step of the way. And, you know, finally, I just wanted to say thank you so much for participating in this virtual college night, which is actually during the day in my room here. And I hope, again, that everyone is safe and well. Thank you.